Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, nursing professionals. This is PSNA's Your Voice in the Capitol with your May 2023 Legislative Day update. We hope that these monthly videos will be able to fit into your schedule easily, so whether you are watching this from home or just listening on the go, we're glad to have you with us. To start off, PSNA and myself, I'd love to thank you for the attendees of the PSNA 2023 Legislative Day. It was a very successful day, and a lot of our members, about 45, were able to attend legislative meetings with different legislators throughout the Capitol on May 1st, and we were able to spread the word about the Patient Safety Act and also Senate Bill 25. We'll be getting more into the Patient Safety Act later in this presentation. An overall quick recap of what was done throughout the day. At 8:30 a.m., Legislative Day attendees arrived at Temple University, Harrisburg, and were briefed on the new language of the Patient Safety Act. At 9:30, Representative Tara Khan spoke to attendees about the importance of getting involved in the Patient Safety Act. 10 a.m., attendees marched over to the Capitol for a picture in front of the rotunda as seen there with our signs. As we were marching over, we were honked at by a lot of cars showing their support, and we also saw some legislators along the way. 10:30 a.m., each attendee went to 2 meetings with their legislators, and at 12, some attendees joined myself for a tour of the Capitol, which we were able to see the Senate side and also overall learn a little bit more of the history about the Capitol building. To start off this presentation, overall we want you to know that there is new language for the Patient Safety Act. If you would like to read the new Patient Safety Act in its entirety, you can scan this QR code here with your phone's camera and it will take you to the bill language if you choose to read through it. After just overall reformatting the bill, after consultation with key legislators, the Patient Safety Act Coalition partners rewrote the previous patient safety legislation and modeled it after the Oregon's Patient Safety Act, which passed their House committee and is headed for a floor vote. That legislation is also supported by their hospital association. The House Health Committee and the members of the House and Senate have eagerly approved the changes, and we are excited to say that we are planning for a committee vote shortly. Here are the main stakeholders of the Patient Safety Act Coalition. It is ourselves, Pennsylvania State Nurses Association, PSNA, Pennsylvania Association of Staff Nurses and Allied Professionals, and SEIU Healthcare Pennsylvania. As you can see, this is a union and non-union nurse issue because the Patient Safety Act affects everyone across the board in Pennsylvania. So just to highlight some key differences between the new and the old legislation, this act would mandate through legislation safe staffing standards in hospitals across the state to address the chronic nurse short staffing crisis. The original sponsors of the bill, which would be House Bill 106, was introduced by prime co-sponsors Rep. Tom Mahaffey and Representative Kathleen Tomlinson and Bridget Kozarowski, a nurse herself. Senate bill, which we are planning to introduce shortly, will be introduced by co-sponsor Senator Maria Collette, a nurse herself, who we have worked extensively with in the past. So to get into the nitty-gritty of the Patient Safety Act and standards, the House and Senate versions of the Patient Safety Act are entirely identical, and each would limit the number of patients an RN can be assigned depending on the level of care that patients require. The wording is very specific in the sections of the bill that mandates the minimum safe nurse to patient standards per unit. I'll just go over this list really quickly for those of you that are just listening. The emergency department, the ER, is 1 to 4 or fewer, 1 to 1 or fewer for critical trauma patients in the ER. The intensive care unit, 1 to 2 or fewer. Labor and delivery is 1 to 2 or fewer if the patients are not in active labor or experiencing complications or in immediate postpartum. 1 to 1 if the patient is in active labor or if the patient is at any stage of labor and is experiencing complications or initiating epidural anesthesia and circulation for cesarean delivery. Postpartum, antepartum, and well baby nursery is 1 to 6 or fewer, counting mother and baby as separate patients. Operating room is 1 to 1. Oncology is 1 to 4 or fewer. Post-anesthesia care unit is 1 to 2 or fewer. Intermediate care unit is 1 to 3 or fewer. Medical surgical unit is 1 to 4 or fewer. Cardiac telemetry unit is 1 to 3 or fewer. Pediatric unit is 1 to 3 or fewer. Pre-surgical and admissions ambulatory surgical unit is 1 to 4 or fewer. Conscious sedation is 1 to 1. Burn unit is 1 to 2 or fewer. Other specialty units is 1 to 4 or fewer. And psychiatric unit is 1 to 4 or fewer. Rehabilitation unit, finally, is 1 to 5 or fewer. As you can see, none of the changes have been made. These are the initial unit nurse to patient minimum standards that we had established in the previous legislation as well. Nothing has changed and nothing has gone down. Patient Safety Act overall, here are our new additions. There's 4 of them. I'm going to go through them briefly. The first major change is nurse staffing committee. Each hospital must establish a hospital nurse staffing committee that consists of hospital nurse managers and registered nurse direct care staff. The committee must include at least 1 direct care registered nurse from each hospital nurse specialty or unit and be composed of direct care registered nursing staff who are at least 50% of the total membership of the committee. The committee must develop a written hospital-wide nurse staffing plan to ensure that the hospital is staffed to meet the healthcare needs of patients. For the staffing plans, each hospital must submit their written hospital-wide staffing plan for nurse services that meet the required ratios and requirements developed and approved by the Hospital Nurse Staffing Committee to the Pennsylvania Department of Health. They must submit any changes to the plan no later than 30 days after approval of the changes by the Hospital Nurse Staffing Committee, and the Hospital Nurse Staffing Committee must review the written hospital-wide staffing plan at least once every year. The PA right to issue penalties. The PA Department of Health is empowered to impose civil penalties for a violation of any provision listed in the bill, including 1, failure to establish a nurse staffing committee, 2, failure to adopt a staffing plan in a timely manner, and 3, failure to comply with the staffing level in the nurse staffing plan, including the nurse to patient staffing ratios. After investigating a complaint, the Department of Health shall 1, issue a warning for the first violation, 2, impose a civil penalty of $7,500 for a second violation of the same provision, and 3, impose a civil penalty of $15,000 for a third and each subsequent violation of the same provision. In very serious cases, the Department of Health is also empowered to suspend or revoke a hospital's license. Now, overall, these changes have been approved by the Health Committee staff and the Legislative Review Bureau, and we have even received compliments from a staunch opposition leader, Kathy Rapp, that the bill is stronger than the previous version. The Patient Safety Act House Health Committee hearing. On Tuesday, David Scheer, committee chair for the PSNA Government Relations Committee, alongside Dr. Linda Aiken, who was referred to as the Elvis of staffing research, alongside nurses from PASNAP and SEIU, testified on the importance of the Patient Safety Act to the House Health Committee under Chairman Dan Frankel and co-chair Kathy Rapp. The hearing went exceptionally well, and the Patient Safety Act's importance was bolstered among committee members. The hearing also proved that the hospitals do not have a solution to the staffing crisis. I believe the term that they used whenever they were asked by Representative Arvind Venkat if they have any current solutions was break rooms. That was it. So overall, I do not think that those break rooms will be utilized when people aren't able to get off the floor because they're swamped with multiple patients. It was an overall huge win for the nurses across the Commonwealth. It was a great hearing, and it really showed members of the House of Representatives and the Senate that the Patient Safety Act is the best option that we have right now and that is being proposed, and it's backed by research. If you would like, you can scan the QR code here to watch the hearing if you take out your phone. It's a rather long meeting, but it is a very informative meeting to see what we are up against and also the supporters that we have. Speaking of which, I would like to go into our next video, which is of Representative Tarek Khan and former president of PSNA, talking a little bit about the Patient Safety Act. We're going to hear from Tarek, Representative Arvind Venkat, and Representative Bridget Kozorowski.
We have research, and this is not just one study. We're not talking about a website or leapfrog.com. We're talking about years and years of evidence that said the same thing, that these staffing standards that work. They're flexible to account for the questions about being too rigid. And I think it's time that hospitals take some accountability and say, you know what, this is what the evidence say, we're going to do it. And I would just hope that you would agree that it's time that you accept having some standards, because right now it's the wild west in for nursing. We have research. And this is
Next
not
up,
just
Representative
one study.
Arvin Venkat.
Trust us when we say this is an unfeasible solution, and trust us as hospitals that we're doing things at the bedside. I think those of us who are active practitioners would disagree with that, not because we distrust the hospitals, but I think, and I would urge you, as we go through this legislative process, to come to the table with a constructive legislative proposal on improving work conditions for healthcare practitioners, because the trust the hospitals answer is no longer an acceptable one. And trust us when we say this is an unfeasible solution.
Finally, Representative Bridget Kozarowski.
Everybody's trying. It's just not doing the job. We don't have, we have nurses in Pennsylvania, but I do believe that the work conditions, if they are better, they will come. All these traveling nurses coming to Pennsylvania, who stayed? Who stayed on the floor and said, I want to stay here and work? Very few, very few. And I think this House bill is, I'm so grateful for this hearing. I'm so grateful for all of your testimony, because we are going to get there. I know we will. And, that's why this House bill is so important. House Bill 106 is so important for us to address.
Thank you.
Everybody's trying. It's just.
These are our next steps. We have had a lot of progress moving forward, and so what we're hoping to do within the next couple of weeks is to secure a House Health Committee vote date within the next few weeks, and then from that, secure a vote on the House floor before the summer recess during the budget hearings. In the meantime, we do have something that you can do for us, so we're not sitting by idly. Now, more than ever, it's time to let your legislator know the importance of the Patient Safety Act. And so if you are able to, please scan this QR code with your phone, or you can go to our advocacy page on PSNA, where you'll be able to take action on this issue and be able to send an email or letter or phone call to your legislator. We urge you to please take 3 minutes to do this, as it will be really rather fast. And please share on your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, because we really need all the support we can get from nurses across the Commonwealth, and you are our best link to all those other nurses. Finally, please contact me if you need anything or if you have any questions, and you can scan this QR code if you're interested in donating to the PSNA PAC, as we are going to be supporting candidates in this upcoming election in 2023. And again, thank you for listening and watching this PSNA, Your Voice in the Capitol, for this May 2023 legislative update. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or even if you just want to say hi. We are happy to have you with us in our collective actions towards a better future for nurses in Pennsylvania. And we will always be there to be your voice in the Capitol, but that voice can grow stronger if we work together to change the nursing profession in Pennsylvania for the better. Thank you.